In this video, I really want to talk about something that I find to be extremely important. I feel like every single year it just gets to be even a little bit more important, mainly because of just how many fishermen there are and just how good all the anglers out there really are. And so in this video, I really want to talk about the speed at which we fish our lures. It is something that whether you are fishing something slow or fast can really mean the difference in the number of bites that you get. It can mean the difference, as I'm about to tell you, in catching zero fish and a lot of fish as well. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by ARC Fishing Rods. You guys know that I absolutely love ARC rods. I have been with them for a number of years. They are the only company that I have ever reached out to and said, hey, I would love to find a way to partner with you guys. And cool thing about ARC is they have given me a coupon code that you guys can use over on their website. So if you go to arcrods.com, if you click on the links down below in the description, use the coupon code BFHQ10 and you will save 10% over on the ARC Fishing website. So whether that is for rods or reels, you can actually save quite a bit of money. So I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description for our rods. All right, let's talk a little bit about speed. Now, speed to me is one of those things in fishing. It is not. It's not necessarily something that is hard to make an adjustment with our baits. It's really about just doing it, about really thinking and being intentional about it. I think that there are a ton of things in the bass fishing world that we are just simply not intentional about. Like, we know to do something or we know we can do it, but until you experience a day on the water where it is the deal, you may not always be intentional about it. Now, I will tell you something that just happened to me recently. I was actually got the privilege to go fish in Tennessee the last couple of days, which sorry I didn't post any videos. I didn't have anything before I left. And so I didn't have any videos up. Also wanted to say, please forgive me for that last video. Apparently the sound just completely turned off like a minute in. And I didn't realize it until I was in Tennessee. So anyways, wanted to say sorry, but anyways, I was down in Tennessee and, I was fishing, and there was something that happened to me throughout the day that has actually been a signal for me in times past. And it made the big difference. So what I'm about to say is I fished primarily a whole day down there, and I really struggled to catch bass. Although I could see the bass with forward-facing sonar, although I could see the bass with my own eyes, I struggled. The second day I went out and I was fishing a bait, and this was actually, I was fishing a swim bait. And as I went to bring the swim bait in to make another cast, you know, there was kind of that that section between the boat and me where I'm reeling that bait in real fast to make a cast. And as I'm reeling it in, a bass comes up there and tries to snatch it like right before it gets out of the water. I would imagine that a lot of us have experienced this before, whether it is in a boat or on the bank. We've all probably experienced it on the bank before. And I will say that when that happens to you out there on the water, it is one of your biggest indicators that the bass may actually want your bait at a faster velocity. May actually want your bait going at a lot of speed. So when that happened to me, I can't say that I automatically thought about it and went to doing and catching a lot of fish. But later in the day, I was thinking about that fish and I realized, man, that thing came up there to hit right when I was bringing it out of the water. It was either just one of those coincidence or that fish wanted speed. So I actually went out to some fish that I knew were kind of in this general area, and I changed up the cadence of a bait that I was fishing, which was a flutter spoon. You guys know that I love a flutter spoon, and instead of popping that bait up and down, popping it down like you normally fish, I was casting it out. As soon as it would hit the water, I'd let it sink a little bit, and I'd just start ripping that thing back to the boat. And I'm telling you, that was the difference between me catching fish and not catching fish, because I had gone out there and I had fished a spoon the regular way and not caught a fish, although I could see them. I switched over and it made a huge difference. Now, I've done it with spoons. I've done it with a lot of different baits where you realize that the bass just wants something super, super fast. And the reason that in the intro of this video, I said I think it's something that's even more important every day is that there are so many good anglers out there. We do know a lot of the best baits, the best tricks, You know, everyone, it seems like, knows all these things these days. And sometimes being intentional about speeding up your bait on a simple retrieve can mean the difference in catching fish. Now, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, slowing way down, way past where you are comfortable can also be a huge deal. You know, when I talk a lot, I've talked about this in the past, but I think that when you think about a lure, there is a spectrum of lures when it comes to size. You know, like we have really, really tiny baits. We have kind of the normal size, like 3.5 to 5 inch bait. And then on the opposite end, we have big baits. And I think that there are a lot of times throughout the year where you have to go to the opposite end of the spectrum to catch a bass, whether that is something really small or something really big. And all those lures that are in between, it's not that you can't get bit on them. It's just that sometimes simply downsizing or upsizing can get you more bites. I think that the speed thing is the exact same thing. I think that for the most part, a lot of our lures are coming in at a certain pace, whether that is a spinner bait or even a bottom bouncing bait. We all kind of work them in the same manner. Now, sometimes if you slow them way down or you speed them way up, it will mean the difference in the number of fish you catch. And the biggest perfect example of this is I used to have a cat, right? Like I used to have a cat when I lived at my parents' house, like a number of years ago. We had a couple cats. And during the winter, like when I was a teenager, I would always bring in a jig and a rod into my house and I'd flip it around. And I noticed how intrigued my cat was. So I started cutting the hook off. Don't want to hurt the cat. And you would see that when you would pitch a bait out there, the cat, if it was literally hit there and just stop, the cat would like go over to it and just examine it, right? If I just cast that bait out and I just started reeling that jig across the carpet, the cat would just kind of follow it, but it would never engage with it. But if I sped it up real quick, what's that cat going to do? Reach out there and try to get it with its little paws. So I think that bass a lot of times act very similar to a cat, where speed is a huge triggering mechanism. And like I said, sometimes casting that bait out, working it uber slow, it's like they just can't stand it. They have to figure out what it is. And it's so it's not a threat, because it's not a threat to them with how slow it's moving. Sometimes I do think that that is also a reason they will go over there. So guys, I simply wanted to talk about speed in this video. I do think it is a huge thing that you can be intentional about when it comes to a number of different baits. So guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out those arc rods, and I will see you guys tomorrow.